What's up, guys? Wesley here. I'm back this week. Nathan did a great job holding down the fort last week. I appreciate that. I was, however, curious regarding his attire that day. He was apparently wearing a beanie inside his home during October. Now, I realize that he's a religious leader of sorts, but I couldn't think of any religious systems that require men to have their heads covered. A few that require that of women, but none of men, so I wasn't sure what kind of message he was trying to send, but I guess I'll just be in the dark on that one. So more importantly though, we've got a huge celebration piece this week. We finished up coats for kids and delivered them to Ashley Elementary School this last week. Can you guess how many coats we had? 229 coats. Man, that's more than double what we had last year. That's incredible. You guys killed it, man. I'm so thankful to be a part of a church that doesn't just talk about the gospel with their words, but lives that out with their deeds. You guys killed it. Super stoked about that. Also, next week, October 28th, we'll have our baptism service. That will be at Winston Square Park at 11 a.m. There will be no evening service, so there will be nothing going on at the Children's Museum next Sunday at all, so do not show up. Also, it'd be really cool if you guys would maybe kind of sit together at baptism as an rGroup. Maybe make some t-shirts, make some posters that say life change, whatever we can do to point people to Jesus and to make sure that we're making a big deal out of the things that God has done in our church. Because if you recall, this is sort of why we do what we do, that Jesus would change the lives of people in our city and in our church. So we want to make sure that when God is faithful to do those things, that we celebrate the heck out of it. So be thinking about some creative ways that you can celebrate that as an rGroup and bring that energy with you to baptism next Sunday. Also, you may or may not be aware of this, but on November 12th through the 18th, we've got some guys and girls going to Cuba to preach the gospel, to love on the locals, and also to serve some of the church planters over in that area. So we want to be diligent to pray for them beginning this week until they return. So one thing that we can pray specifically for them this week is that God would really produce in them a fervor for the truth that they're going to proclaim and for the people that they're going to proclaim that truth to. Because on the hard days when they don't have all the comforts of home, they're going to need that in order to keep going. So let's be diligent to pray again that they would have a fervor for the truth of the gospel that they're proclaiming and for the people of Cuba who will receive that message. Let's pray that God would do big things and that He would sustain our team as they're over there and get them pumped beforehand. So Mark chapter 12, verses 28 through 37. This is just a crucial text, and Pastor Nathan did a great job with it on Sunday. But the text is kind of set up by the religious leaders asking Jesus a question. If you were there on Sunday, you'll recall these verses. But a teacher of the law walks up to Jesus and says, "Teacher, what is the most important of all of the commandments?" Now, obviously, the answer to that question is going to be extremely weighty because traditionally the teachers of the law would have held to this idea that there were 613 individual commandments of the Mosaic law. So a rephrasing of that question that might help us catch the weight of it might be that this is what they essentially said. Jesus, out of all 613 commands, which of them is most important? So as we kind of unpack that through the blog this evening, I want to let you know that we're going to do a little bit different structure. What we're going to do is we're going to have 5 questions that are designed to force us to interact with the text and unpack the meaning of the text. And then at the end of that unpacking portion, we'll have 3 kind of personal questions. And it'll be a question that asks you, what did this text teach you about God? What did this text teach you about yourself? And what are you going to do about it? Because if you'll recall, going back a couple weeks when we launched this new rGroup structure, we said that the reason we wanted everyone to go to the sermon content was because we want to make sure that we're not just absorbing theological information and then doing nothing with it. So these 3 questions at the end of each blog will kind of help ensure that we're deciding, man, okay, so here's the information. What is it in a bullet point kind of form, and what am I going to do with that? How am I going to live in light of the truth that God's revealed through His Word? So I'm looking forward to it, man. You guys have a great group.